In 2001, I was ready to buy my property in Zimbabwe. So initially, I thought I'd just go about it myself. But when I did that, I realized just at the last moment that I was almost scammed. Fortunately, the gentleman I'm going to speak to today is going to uncover the true reality of buying land in Zimbabwe and what you need to look out for. So today I have Mr. Fungai Chimwamurombe, who's going to help us understand the process of buying land and what to be aware of when we do so. Mr. Chimwamurombe, thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you today.
Good to meet you, Augustine. I'm happy to talk to you.
Excellent, excellent. So as you know, a lot of people out there in the diaspora, they want to buy land, they want to buy property. But the most common discussion that goes around is you'll get scammed if you buy land in Zimbabwe. Even sometimes to an extent where people don't actually believe you can buy legal land in Zimbabwe. So my question to you is, what is the process of buying land in Zimbabwe if you wanted to buy it without being scammed?
Okay, thank you very much. I will start by encouraging people to buy land in Zimbabwe and to develop our country. So obviously, if you don't do things right, we are going to bend our fingers, and we need to obviously engage some experts as far as the buying of land is concerned. Largely, we have lawyers, and we have also estate agents who can come in to also assist in the process. So in Zimbabwe, indeed, we have some cases where people have been scammed, where people who lost money in the process of trying to acquire property. So I think I'm going to bring at least a vision which should be of things that should be done for one to avoid at least to be scammed.
Yes.
First of all, if you identify a property, whether it's on newspaper or it's being sold by estate agents, you need to engage a lawyer to assist you for purposes of a process that we call a due diligence process. So due diligence process, I will just maybe explain it in a broader way. This is a process where an expert get involved in analyzing the legal intricacies or to understand the legal consequences around the piece of land which you want to buy.
Okay.
Are you able to buy it? Who are the owners of that property? Are there any cases where transfer might be made difficult in the future?
Okay.
For example, the cases where estates, where you die, you leave the property is not under the estate, and the beneficiaries are not thinking of selling the property. Well, legally, they might have the power to own it as beneficiaries, but there is a process that needs to be followed for you now to get title. So you now need also to know the timelines that those things are going to be involved, and also you need to know the identity. You are looking at a property ownership. If it's on title deed, it is to the person who is on the title deed.
Okay.
So you have cases where a company is selling or a property is registered in a company, and people don't understand the consequences or legal consequences of having a company. Who should transact? There's need for a resolution. There's need for an appointment of a director to represent the company. So people then think it's my company, it's my property, and then they act in such a manner that will be prejudicial to the purchaser.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So from what I hear you say, you're saying that when it comes to purchasing, there is a process called due diligence, where you go through finding out if who the person who's selling is the person that is selling, and if also that property has any other issues around it.
Yes, we call it if the property is incumbent. So you will require someone who actually needs to go to the register of deeds if it's on title deed, or to cancel if it's on session. So you realize this now. A person can take a photocopy, whether a color copy of a title deed, and keeps it in his safe.
Right.
And he goes on to take a mortgage bond on that property. But he still have a copy which is not incumbent, which does not have an indication of a title deed.
Right.
Or sorry, for mortgage bond.
Right.
So when he's selling, he may come to you and show you the title deed, which is maybe free from any encumbrance. And you are made to either pay some deposits or whatever kind of thing. But later on, there is a mortgage bond, which might then be shown through the process of due diligence. So if you don't have someone who is an expert to do these things, you'll be in trouble. Or this may happen because maybe the person who took the mortgage bond is no longer there, or did not advise other people. It's like a company set up.
Yes.
So these are things that one needs to be very careful. So you cannot run away from a due diligence process. And now there's also a scam where people fake ID. So if a property with the Fungai Chimwamurombe on the title deed,
Right.
and there's an ID with the Fungai Chimwamurombe, but the face is not Fungai Chimwamurombe, it's your face. And these guys are now doing these schemes where you are carrying an ID which is a fake one,
Right.
with my face, which is agreeing with the title deed.
Mhm.
And then you are duped in the process. So you realize that the due diligence process does not really only deal with the documentation. I go further to ask questions like, okay, which are done in a normal conversation.
Right.
Are you married? How many kids do you have? And those things you can't lie. But I then turn up and say, oh, can I have the marriage certificate? Can I have the birth certificate of the children? So the process of faking now can be affected
Yes.
or can be interrupted. So I also, or maybe an expert can also then even go to the piece of land. You are in diaspora.
Yes.
And you know what these guys do? They send money to their relatives to
Yes.
buy a property.
Yes.
And you know, the brother of yours is going to be shown a piece of land which is vacant. This is the place in Mopra. And the price is well negotiated. But to be honest, that person may not be the owner due to various reasons. It could be an issue of fraud, it could be an issue of forgery, it could be an issue of legalities that needs to be explained in terms of ownership.
Right.
So you get to a property and later on you may realize that you can't transfer it. But money has already been exchanged. So when you go to an expert, I will tell you that you cannot exchange money until a transfer process is done. So this is the due diligence process. It encompasses a lot. There's a physical inspection, there's the document analysis, there's a current crisis, or there's a future crisis that may be occasioned by the transaction. So those things now you need to be explained to them. One is to explain to them too.
Because what I also realized, and I was a part of this, we are very impatient sometimes. When we hear a good deal, we want to part with the money. And you are saying, no, don't part with the money until the title is also ready to be transferred. That's very good advice, because I fell for that as well, because I was ready. There was a property, which I think it was Crow Hill, 1,000 square meters, and the price was very cheap. And I was so happy that I would be getting 2,000 square meters, but the price was very low. I can't remember the price. But you are saying that is very dangerous, because don't go for the deal.
Anything that is cheap or too cheap might be expensive in the long run. But I know there are some bargains. For example, someone need money for something else, and they are quickly selling. You can't lose opportunity.
Yes.
But we are saying, have an expert to make sure that you don't there be any certain legal issues that needs to be addressed. Because look here, even if I need money, do you know, legally, if someone puts an offer, I'm selling a property.
Yes.
And if I accept that offer, there's now already a binding agreement.
Okay.
And we can then do and even reduce that agreement into a writing. That is now an agreement of sale.
Okay.
And we can have terms in that agreement of sale. And if there's need to have some money part away with at that particular time, we can then do some indemnity documents to cover the obvious conveyances. But again, the most important thing is that when that money is going out, there is a process that has been followed. At least the basics should have been done through the due diligence process. I tell you, with my experience, I've done many cases where people would eventually say, no, look here, Fungai, with what you have told us, we are no longer proceeding with this sale. So I'm simply saying, so if those things happen, it means there are cases where some people would have almost lost their money. So why can't we just be patient?
Yes.
But you see, we were patient enough to save money, but you are no longer patient to lose it.
I remember last time we had a very good conversation, and now this time it was when I was buying the farm. Sometimes when you are new to purchasing land or purchasing a house, there are certain things that we think are expensive. For example, this whole process of you doing the due diligence.
Yes.
But then there's something you mentioned to me which was very important. And you said, would you rather lose? Or why would you complain about paying, let's say, for example, $1,000 for due diligence, safeguarding maybe 60,000 you would have probably lost.
Yes.
You see, and that at that point it made sense. But generally speaking, we're not thinking of that. We're thinking 1,000. I may do it myself.
There are people who pay even 1,000 don't even proceed to buy that property. But the question is, you are wiser.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, wiser. Plus, and I'm happy you mentioned something that is very important. You talk about buying a farm.
Yes.
So, when I do due diligence, I will then need to explain to you. Well, the person who is selling is very clear. It's his property. Everything is above board.
Yes.
But one thing that is critical is that when you are selling a farm, you need what we call a certificate of no present interest
Right.
from the Ministry of Lands. So you realize now, if you are coming to my office and we've got a land issue, a farm issue, which is different from the residential or commercial
commercials,
stage,
yes.
I apply my legal mind to say, okay, how quick and how fast will it be for me to obtain a certificate of no present interest? That I tell you, the seller and the buyer, you don't even know about that process. So I then guide you accordingly to say, okay, you guys want to exchange value, but remember we need to go to ministry. This is going to take us a month or two. Everyone must be very clear and understand. And there are things like trust funds, trust accounts, where yes, you have a signed agreement or so, money is not going to the seller, but the buyer also wants to know that my money is not with me. The money is moving to a third party, which is a trust account.
Yes.
And everything is under the control. And lawyers are under the control and guidance and the protection from the law society. All those things. I'm aware there may be other issues that may arise, but ideally there's a more organized arrangement. Looking with the lawyers who are well registered, who have a good standing with the law society, all those kind of things need to be done. So I am trying to educate you and the listeners here that you cannot run away from the due diligence process. It is for your convenience rather. It's not delaying anything. It's for your convenience and for your security.
Yes.
And the moment you do that, you are good to go.
Right. Now, we mentioned briefly about commercial land or commercial properties being different to farm, right?
Yes.
So, in the farm process, is there a situation where one could have a farm legally, we have all the paperwork,
Yes.
and now they've decided to designate some plots to sell, and that process as well needs to be approved for the titles to come out.
Yes.
Can you explain deeper?
Okay.
about
Maybe
that?
I would want you to use the word designate because it may mean something else.
Okay.
In the land issue or land discussion.
Okay.
But anyway, we are talking about subdivision. in this
Subdivision,
context.
yes, that's the right word.
So
yes.
you have a farm and you want to sell plots from that farm and you have a title deed.
Yes.
What you need now is to approach the local authority and get a subdivision permit.
Subdivision.
Subdivision permit is just to allow you to have those 4 or 5 plots that you want to create.
Subdivisions.
And
Okay.
it comes with conditions.
Right.
And you are supposed to meet those conditions for you to be given a certificate of compliance. To say you have complied with the terms of the subdivision permit.
Right.
And it's upon production of that certificate of compliance that you can now issue out title deed for each singular plot thereof. So what then happens, which is the biggest blunder that people do have, is they go and they just get diagrams from the surveyors
Yes.
that were done by the owner, and they are told your plot is there, but there's no subdivision permit. And in terms of our law, it's actually illegal to sell or to have an agreement of sale of a land without a subdivision permit. Which means that agreement is illegal on the face of it that you are
Right.
doing.
What
And-
about a situation where the subdivision permit is there,
Yes.
right? But there is no compliance.
What happens is that we are good to go. We have got an agreement or so which is valid, but you cannot have title deed. And now, for those who are listening to this conversation, there are many advantages of a title deed. Number one, it protects you against the whole world. You have got ownership, which is accessible to anyone.
Right.
Number two, you can use it as a vehicle of investment. You can get my mortgage bond using a title deed. You get money to even do more business at that farm or elsewhere. So, and also the third one, which is obviously generally the issues of security around the property,
Yes.
land tenure issues. So you get to know this now. If I don't have title, I'm only relying on an agreement of sale.
Right.
So I've subdivided my property and I've given you the agreement of sale of my property today. You are farming, it's good to go, you are there. But in cases where you're not there, like those our friends who are in diaspora, they may buy for investment purposes.
Yes.
Or others, they want to put it for speculation purposes. But anyway, it's investment. So the idea is now, there's no one who's doing an activity at the farm.
Right.
So Fungai, we are subdivided. I can still sell it to Grace or to Peter. Because ordinarily, there's no one who can say, no, don't sell. It's only me and you with the agreement of sale.
Yes.
You can't go to register of this. It's not there. So I can sell that property to someone else when I'm broke. So there's no security. It's only that agreement of sale is binding, and we call it it's between the two parties creates personal rights, not like the title deed. So you must submit yourself to that position. The youngsters will say, I have subscribed to that position. You need to subscribe to that. And I always tell people that when you have bought such kind of land with an agreement or so, please don't hesitate to take occupation.
Okay.
Yeah, put a fence, put a cabin, have someone there, so that we can avoid simple things like these double souls. Because when one buying property, I think at this particular point, everyone is at least in the second stage, now knowing that you can't just buy property from papers or from Google Maps. You need to physically go there.
Yes.
So if someone goes there and see that no, there's fencing here and there's a cabin or there's someone, is this property really out for sale? It's a certain level of protection.
Yes.
So you can then take occupation and protect. This applies even to those who are buying properties in Harare or in any cities apart from farms. But the most important thing is you must now be clear on the timelines. When you guys buy this property, make sure the owner is advised that we want title deed. And whatever money we are paying you, please let's meet the conditions on the subdivision permit. If it means to have water, if it means to have roads, let's all work together to have those things done. If it means you can't give him 100% the full amount, you are giving them some percentages, and you guys as a team work together, quickly form an association of people who are beneficiaries of that area. Work with the owner. Then that will make you get a certificate of compliance.
Right.
And ultimately,
then that's how the title comes out.
Exactly.
Now, just to go back on that point, I think this point is also very important about making the land vacant.
Yep.
Because I can see how easily someone could be taken to a piece of land which is just bare with nothing and be convinced that no one is here.
Very much.
But if there is a cabin or if there is a perimeter fence, then there are more questions to be asked.
Yes.
Because you'd be like, what activities are happening here? There's a cabin here, there's a bit of activity. So yes, I agree that is a major point which is very, very important.
I tell you, I've got a friend who started a company, especially for those who are doing or buying farms. I've got a friend who bought a company. I will not advertise. I won't say their names here, but what they've done is they've now understood that people are buying land and they are not on the land. So they actually now employ their employees. So it's like it's a company which is not letting, but subcontracting itself. They will have people who have started, or it's Afrostate, they can look for them. Okay. They can employ their own experts to run the farm.
Okay.
Even if you are outside the country.
Right.
They've got experts who are actually going to be doing the greenhouse for you. Then they will even start to manage everything. And at the end of the day, there's occupation. So
and there's activity as well.
You might only be asked to pay a certain figure per month, but there's protection. You are not really, expecting for you to start to do the business when you are now now in the country.
Yes.
So it's something that I think is very innovative, and I like that disruption in our agro industry. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's fundamentally important that you must occupy.
Right.
I tell you a case which happened in with my experience. These plots or this piece of land where one buys and it's vacant, they go out. People do all those funny things, and someone will tell you, no, I'm in Mtare. Yeah, I'm the owner, I'm coming to Harare. And it's being sold maybe 30% less the actual value. And they say, no, but I don't know whether you are serious or not. So put a commitment fee in my account or put a commitment in my Echo Cash. Yeah, maybe the commitment fee is 2,000 or 3,000. Then the question is, the guy will never arrive and he will never come.
And now the problem is to try and recover that money. It's a whole different problem.
It's a whole different problem. But look here, if he's doing that to 10 people per day or per month, those people are busy buying land. So before you part away with any dollar, even if it's called 200 or 300 for fuel for me to drive, please don't do that. And as I speak to you right now, I know there are many people who will be swindled along those lines. So the process now goes down to the issue of due diligence. I'm interested in this particular land. Some of my clients actually will come to say, I want to buy the land. They don't just come and say, I found the land. They actually start by telling me that I want to buy the land. Then we tell you the processes. What nature of land, what are you looking at? And then we can even guide them to go through proper and register its agents. And then they start to do the process and we'll be monitoring them.
Yeah, I think at this point I also like to mention my situation where I got to know you actually is when I found land in Chengdu.
Yes.
And it was I think 60 hectares.
Yes.
and it was going for about 12,000 US.
Yes.
Immediately, I was visualizing doing my farming there, and I was saying the price is good, and I was ready to go.
You were almost procuring tractors.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what shocked me was when you went and did the due diligence. In fact, you still had that laugh. You said, "Forget that one." On one hand, I was devastated because I was like, "Man, that's a good deal."
Mhm.
But when you started explaining to me that, look, they had this documentation, but they didn't have this one, and they didn't have this one, therefore, at the end of it, there's no title.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I was actually looking for title because I wanted something to for my children to inherit. Basically.
Yeah.
So that was my story, and yes, it's these type of things happen.
Mhm.
Now, let's continue on and talk about how we can protect our properties and also even the land itself through
Okay.
trusts. We are brought up to believe that trusts versus what's the other document again?
The will.
The will. The will is one of the most important thing,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
But you explained to me the benefits of the trust. Perhaps maybe you can go deeper and explain why a trust is more important for someone who wants to secure their properties.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. It's a very good question, and I like the conversation because many people are asking, why should we not do wills now and focus on trust?
Yes.
Well, important thing that one must consider that when you do a will, your will is only subject to interpretation when you are no longer there.
When you're no longer there.
Yeah, that's when you start to say, okay, what was his desire before he died?
Okay.
So many things happen. A will can be challenged, and it can be challenged on various grounds in terms of our Wills Act. That's number one. So if it's something that can be challenged, already that's created a problem, because it means what you might have wanted is not going to be executed because it has been challenged and successfully so.
Yes.
That's one. Number two, if you've done a will, what happens is that you are now getting into a situation where the title is still yours, still under Augustin's name.
Right.
But when you die, you want it to be given to one of your child or your children.
Yes.
So we need to transfer that property. And when we transfer that property, there are costs that are inherent. You need to pay the master's fee. You need to go to a lawyer and you pay the conveyancing fee. You have to have so many sundries or any other payment that will be done. So that may even eat to a total of at least maybe 10% of the value, if you look at all those costs that I've indicated to you. So the question is, you are working, you have the money, you want to leave a burden to your children when you are no longer there. What if the children are not able to do the transfer? It means that the whole estate is now executable for purposes of raising the master's fee, or for purposes of you having the transfer to be done. So if they've got 4 properties, maybe one might be sacrificed to raise the cost of transfer.
And this process has to be done.
It has to be
when
done.
someone passes away, then it has to go through.
You have to transfer because it's not allowed. It's illegal actually to remain in occupation and utilizing and getting fruits of that property without registration with the master. And the master of High Court will tell you that you need to proceed with the transfer processes and to do the estate rather.
It's illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal. It's illegal for you not to tell the master that someone is dead.
As a layman, I'm just thinking, well, I have a big house here. I pass on, my children just continue living there.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
Our government needs to transfer ownership from you to the late to the surviving. And that process, like I've indicated, there are costs incurred 4% to the master. You need to pay the legal fees, conveyancing fees for the transfer, which is about 3%, among other costs that are occasioned. That's a cost which you can't run away from. It's beneficial.
So sometimes maybe you have a house which is worth quite a lot of money, and the cost now for transferring perhaps maybe even 20,000, and maybe your children don't have that kind of money amongst them.
They have to sell, and they keep the money to themselves and will buy another property. The master wants his money. I'm a bit brutal. I want you to understand now why should you move away from the will.
Right. Okay. So now tell me, in terms of the trust now, how does it
Before we
protect
go
that?
to the trust, I still have something to tell you about that will. Because
Okay,
I
go
know
on.
people are very eager to keep wills.
Okay.
You are a married guy, you have a wife, you are okay, everything is fine. And then you are doing a shocker, you've got a will coming out after your death. And the will comes out, and those 4 children that people know maybe are only benefiting 20%. The 80% is going to the children that are not known.
Yes.
And then your wife, you say, wow,
I didn't know
is
this.
dramatic. So when people invite me for workshops and conferences to talk about these things, this is one of the most the most scary part, where the woman and the husband decide to get some shivers. It happens.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
you know what
yes.
happens now? We have a Supreme Court judgment. If the property is in your name, if you die, a will can be produced to show that you have given it to your uncle, who was paying school fees for you, and your wife and your children are worried. What's happening? So, I'm just trying to give a very clear examples which may show how a will can be a very difficult or a dangerous thing, especially to those people who are married. So, what then should we do? We are saying, as you are married, why are you not forming a family trust?
Yes.
Yes, the mother and the father are the trustees.
And
the
children are
property they buy, the property is bought into the name of the trust. And the property is already in the name of the trust, so even if you two die, it doesn't change anything. The beneficiaries are there. We only need to replace the trustees as we go forward. There's no money that's being paid. There's no any whatever transaction involving the tax that is being called for.
Yeah.
1, 2, there's no new people who are coming in to say we are also his children. We want to benefit. There are also, there are many things that you are now covering ourselves. So, for tax planning purposes, go for the trust. For purposes of protecting our own children, go for the trust. For purposes of avoiding conflicts, because conflicts will happen. For example, you guys, when you do these things, well, we are. I'm from Nyanga, I'm Samanyika.
All right.
We've got certain values that we preserve. So there's sometimes when you say when you want to do a will, you are going to give it to your firstborn. The thinking is that your firstborn is going to consider that he has brothers and sisters. And what happens when you die? Two things can happen.
Yes.
The first issue can be your son that you think is going to be responsible. Something happens to him, and well, he's now wayward, and you decide to sell it at the expense of your other
Everybody
children.
else. Yes.
1, 2, the most interesting one. Now you gave him ownership through a will.
Yes.
The property is transferred from you to Fungai.
Right.
Fungai happens to marry a good wife.
Yes.
His own choice.
Yes.
And the property, Fungai is convinced over the period discussions, the property someone may be registered in a mutual joint name.
Okay.
And eventually Fungai dies, and then my wife remains the surviving spouse on that property. And
Wow,
my wife,
hold on,
is
hold
going
on.
what, right?
This,
These are practicalities of
No,
life.
no,
I did a case which is a sad one in Mutare, where then my wife then they married. And when my wife was no longer there, then the other guy who married then get to marry another one. So ultimately, there's now 3 or 4 phases where the property is now sitting on an ownership of people who don't know my children. Or
and
who
no
don't
connection
care.
at all.
They have no connection, or they don't care. And what they do, they can do anything they want mercilessly with my children. So why can't we do
my
a trust?
Goodness. You see, sometimes we don't think about these things.
Yeah, we don't. And I'm very, very close about the professionals. Usually, normally those who are wise enough to go on the internet and look at these things,
Yes.
they always procrastinate. I've done about 4, if not 5, some cases where you start to think, what do we do as professionals when we are still alive? We don't take these things important. Go to lawyers, get some assistance. You have a trust created, you have done it. Someone asking me, Fungai, that I already have a house. What should I do? But I've told you the consequences that may happen.
Yes.
So what you need to do now is now to say, why can't you now work as you are still alive for that 10% or whatever less to cover the cost of putting things in the trust? You can still do it. You are not yet dead. And I had a call, I think it's very coincidental, a week ago from one client who is in the States. And she was asking me, Fungai, that's a lot of money. And I asked her, is it not wiser for you to gather even your children now and told them that this is my thinking? And I want to do the trust for these so many reasons. And ultimately, you guys are going to be the beneficiaries and benefit from this. So why can't you bring money? Why can't you bring money? Why can't you bring money?
Exactly.
We put together. And
Yes.
we do it together whilst we are still alive.
As one team.
Why should we play hide and seek? We all know we're going to die. We just don't know when. So why should we play hide and seek game? On things that are fundamental. On things that are not fundamental,
Yeah.
we value death. But on things that are not fundamental, we don't value that. So we need to have an engagement, an honest engagement to each other. That even if you're a priest, you're going to die. And if you're a prophet, you're going to die. Even if you're a top man in business, you're gonna die.
Mhm.
What should you do? Let's protect and hedge our families
Mhm.
in such a manner that people would say, well, we lost a father, but he was a responsible father.
Yeah, and
He
also
did this for us, or our mother did this for us.
And also, to add to what you're saying, when my dad passed away,
Yeah.
there was chaos. My uncles, my
Mm.
dad's brothers, they
Mm.
came and took everything.
Yeah, I know,
And left my
I know,
mom with
I know
nothing.
people from certain region in the country who are very, very known of doing that. They always come and they say, our child worked hard, and we know Mama bought this, the car is taken. I was, unfortunately in my profession, there was a time where I had to write an agent letter with a sticker when people had gone to Great Forest to bury someone.
Yes.
Because the arrangement that was made was that after burial, they are going to come and take everything. So I did lay a sticker that it's a criminal for you to take those things because they are supposed to be accounted to the manners of High Court.
Wow.
And when they came back, they saw letters around with agent stickers, and they went.
But they were ready to do that.
They were ready. Actually, it was not a what do we call this? A threat. It was going to happen, and we protected them. So my point is, we had to do these things when we are alive and protect our children. One thing that I may also want to highlight,
Mhm.
I don't want people to want to think that I am not ready to, or the law is not ready to protect either children from previous marriage or children from future marriages. No, there are always those instances, and one can still do trust for those specific families.
Okay, so
You have
you're
a trust
saying,
from children in the previous marriage.
Mhm.
You have trust for current children. You have trust for you. If you,
Okay,
in
so
the event that you get into another marriage, you have a trust for that specific one.
Okay.
So we don't have children fighting. We have got instances that are going for 3, 4, 5 years. People fighting. Why? Because we've got the various families coming up, and they are saying, no, who should benefit, who should what? And ultimately, I think these things would have been resolved through a family trust.
Mhm. But for me, the main reason would be, you can imagine, like the example I gave, where my brothers would come and say, after my passing, and say, look, this is our brother. He worked so hard, and we're entitled to this, and
Yeah.
leave absolutely nothing for my kids.
Yeah.
For me, that peace of mind where I know the trust is protecting my children after my passing, that to me is fundamental. And also, just to add to that, when you have a trust, you only set it up once.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then everything else you acquire after time, you can
put-
just add it into that.
Yeah, a trust is like a person. It has got actually different from a person that in the sense that it's got a perpetual succession. It can live longer.
Mhm.
It can live forever.
Mhm.
But in terms of ownership, it can have an bank account. It can have assets. It can have all sorts of things. So it's rather you do that. As you are talking about your own situation, I've listened to this song by the late System Tazwida. He was singing a song saying, "Fuma baba ndio inorirwa wose, isuwana wacho torarama nei."
Yes, I
Those
remember
are
that.
the eventualities of life. And that song is very odd, but it's happening today. So why should we leave our children to suffer after we are late? So in this case, I say, if you want to do away because you think you're dying tomorrow, you can't set up a trust, or do it. It may give us guidance. But I've told you there are things that even if you are doing that, you need legal advice. Only someone expert to help you. Why? There are things like, for example, the beneficiaries should not be witnesses. It must be signed by 2 witnesses, among other things. There are many things. If those things are not there, that will can be challenged. And those who challenge it can successfully win it. So
is there a way that this trust can be manipulated, or some sort of scam could happen around the trust once it's properly registered?
well, it can't be scammed because you are doing it whilst you are still alive.
Okay.
So you are going to see a lawyer and we are registering that. And we are registering assets that you already have. So, I'm just thinking what scam can be done because you are already there.
Sometimes
you can give a registration papers.
No, the reason why I'm saying that is, let's say I have these big companies.
Yep.
Right? People know they exist, and I'm probably running them.
Mm-hmm.
So where the scam could be is maybe some money is exchanging hands somewhere, somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Could there be a situation where that could also be a scam where they could bypass the trust itself? Or that is airtight? Basically, I'm asking, is a trust airtight?
It is very airtight. And remember, this is a document that is registered to the Registrar of Deeds.
Okay.
And it being registered, you are given an area number, and you are having managers or directors of that specific trust. So these are really different people from the corporates that you are running.
Right.
And ownership of property, immovable property is on title deed.
Right. And
As
there's
long as
nothing else.
I'm going to prove that number 17 Plover Road is under this title, under Fungai Family Trust, that's the end of the matter.
There's nothing else that can be discussed further from that.
What do they want to discuss? we have various other issues of how fraudulently property is acquired, but that's no longer a scam. Those are real issues which are being raised, and the trustees have the right to oppose, object, and challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say then a lot of the stories we hear about properties being sold and all these scams, people haven't actually gone through the right process? That's why those things are existing. Would you say that is the result?
I would say 80% that result.
80%.
Yes. The other percent I will leave it to the sense that the parties who are handling the matter may be out of knowledge of the legal consequence of what they are doing. Genuinely, the seller does not know. The buyer does not know. But
Okay.
but in most cases, they have not gone through or submit themselves to a proper due diligence process. But if you do it right, and remember, I have said you need to get a lawyer, register the law society. If you're not so sure, ask the law society. They will tell you whether the lawyer is in good standing. If you are going, because these are the people that helps you to do the due diligence.
Yeah.
So you are protected at least. So to me, we can avoid this kind of scams by doing the right thing with the right people.
Yeah, because sometimes when we get scammed, we get so disappointed to a point where we just say, there's no law in Zimbabwe, because we are very upset.
I've seen clients who are so discouraged.
Yes.
I've seen clients who have stopped buying property in Zimbabwe
Mhm.
because of that kind of experiences. But reconsider after watching this video and to say there's a better way of doing things. Can I not follow those things? Let's not rush to do things. Let's not be pushed to conclude a transaction if you didn't have a yes. I'm happy with someone I want to say on video who actually told me that, look, I'm told that this property is good. Two other people want it. If you don't pay money today, I'm going to sell it to the third party. And I have told him, look here, I need to verify one document that is still outstanding. I found these people are giving pressure, and that document is not there. And I told him, look here, you see, you are told stories. There's another one who wants the property. There's all those kind of things.
Yes.
Please, you see, it's so hard to come with this money. And the people in diaspora, I know how you guys overwork yourselves, many shifts and that kind of things.
Yes.
And then just to give someone money just like that.
Yeah.
Just because maybe you run away from a due diligence process, which I think let's reconsider. Let's look into these things more holistically and let's approach it with very much diligence. And we will do the best way to safeguard their interests.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we've covered quite a lot here, and personally, I'd like to thank you very much because what you've done for me is massive. It's huge because I was in the dark when it comes to the trust, when it comes to the whole process of buying property or land, whatever it is. So even in the future, there's no way I'll be rushing because I'm being pushed to want to pay quickly. Now I know the process. So again, I'd like to thank you so much for helping me out and saving me a lot of money. So I'd like to, I wanted to really say this on camera because it means a lot to me. So Fungai, thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you.
Thank you, Augustine, and to the viewers. I am also welcoming them. If they are buying land and want to invest, they must also come down to Nyanga. I'm the mayor of Nyanga, and we are pushing for Nyanga investments. So if they are looking for places also to consider, please come to Nyanga and visit Nyanga and invest in Nyanga.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Cheers.